So what can we know about the oldest known untranslatable writing? This is the Indus script, the script of the Indus Valley Civilization. Some estimates put this as old as 35 BCE, meaning this is a candidate for some of the oldest writing that we know of. There are over 4,000 inscriptions of this writing, 90% of which are found in modern-day Pakistan. These are some of the oldest records of civilization in the Indian subcontinent, and we have no idea what it says. They mostly occur in 5-character chunks like you see here, and there are over 400 characters that are used. These short phrases combined with a high number of characters leads some experts to suggest that they aren't in fact writing, but are instead symbolic characters, could represent a clan of family or a religious concept. There's no way we can know, and in fact, the newer we get, the more rare signs there are, which fits this hypothesis pretty well, because you would imagine that as a civilization grows, the number of noble families grows, and therefore they would need more signs to represent them. But any guess as to what these signs represent is just that. I guess this is an ongoing debate in academia. If they do correspond to a language, it is likely the Harappan language, but there is very little known about this language. Some of our best evidence for it is that there's no way the civilization that existed here existed without language. There might be a few words in Sanskrit that are borrowed from this language, but it's hard to tell, because we don't have any account of this language itself to compare it against, but we may never know what these mean. More about why we can't decipher this later. Iron is not better than bronze. This is a really common misconception about history. People think the Iron Age came after the Bronze Age, because it was stronger, harder, better weapon, but at best it was about equal. So why was iron so revolutionary? Well, to make bronze you need two things. You need copper and you need tin. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, until you realize that tin is rarer on planet Earth than uranium. It's pretty rare that a nation had both copper and tin, so you get these very complicated Mediterranean trade networks during the Bronze Age. But it also means that these weapons were incredibly expensive, but irons everywhere. And once they got the hang of it, iron weapons were way cheaper, which meant you could equip much larger bodies of soldiers. And there's actually a really interesting theory that the Bronze Age collapse was partly caused by iron weapons. Like it kind of had the same effect as AK-47s in modern times. Like suddenly, these sort of like tribal peoples in the mountains, who before was sort of suppressed by these Bronze Age civilizations, could now fight back in a much more meaningful way. And it just turns out that a bunch of people with iron weapons beats like a few really elite warriors with bronze ones. And because it was so much cheaper, you could use it for tours. You could use it for domestic purposes like that's why the Iron Age changed everything. Steel is different though. Steel is much better than bronze, but steel wouldn't be widespread until later on. So Yale has posted the voyage manuscripts to the internet. Congratulations Yale, 10 out of 10. You can't figure it out, make everybody else do it for you. It is a very solid idea because what starts happening? People start flooding and shit starts happening. Things start to come out about the voyage manuscripts. And what the fuck could possibly be the tea? First and foremost, there was a group of people that were like him. This is carved in parchment. We can carbon date this, and we should. So they take little scraps off of the corners, and they take them to the lab, and they do the lab shit, and the lab shit says that this book, the paper, actually dates back to the 15th century, which is a huge discovery, because it makes Wilfred Voynich look like a motherfucking liar. It makes him look like a fucking idiot and a moron, because he was over here thinking Sir Kevin Bacon, or whatever the fuck his name was the one that wrote it way back in the 13th century. He was over here saying this monk, this who wasn't allowed to be a scientist, that I think this is his secret book. Hello, and took it on that book tour, tried to sell it for $100,000, and now we carbon dated the pages and we're like, where did you get that idea? The Dancing Plague of 1518, I guess back in 1518 in Strasbourg, France, randomly in July. This one lady just goes outside of her house, and she just starts dancing. You know, some people are clapping, you know, like cheering around, but just no music. And then she's just outside just dancing, bro. She danced for like 6 days straight to the point where like she passed out from exhaustion. When she passed out, she got back up and started dancing again. It got to the point where people started just joining her. Within like a week, there was like 15 people, 20 people dancing with her, and they danced for like 3 or 4 months straight. What? Yes, bro. People were joining by like the 100 then at a certain point. You know, or like there was up to like 400, maybe more people dancing with them because they said they were like, there was like 15 people dying a day from that shit. The city is like, bro, what the fuck is going on? Like all these people are just dancing in the street. So they're thinking like, okay, well, they're not dancing any music, so let's try to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they build a fat ass stage to hire musicians to come and perform. You're kidding, I swear to God, like damn. They're a little concert back in 1518, but it damn near backfired, because people who weren't already dancing were thinking, oh, they're all just dancing for a concert, so let's dance too. So people started joining in. More people started joining into dance woe. And one day, they all just randomly stopped. Really, just everyone just stopped dancing and just went back to work. Went back to the regular life. Did fucking like Amber from Danny Phantom come through or something? The Black Dahlia case is one of the most notorious and mysterious unsolved crimes in its history. The fateful event took place in Los Angeles on January 15, 1947. On that day, Betty Bersinger and her daughter were walking in a deserted area when they came across what they initially believed was a mannequin. However, upon closer inspection, they discovered the mutilated and slashed body of Elizabeth Short, who would later be known as the Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short, born on July 29, 1924 in Boston, was only 22 at the time of her tragic death. Her life was marked by adversity, from her father's business going bankrupt during the 29 crisis, to her attempt to become an actress and model in Hollywood. Desperation led her father to fake his suicide, leaving Elizabeth and her sisters in a situation of extreme poverty. Determined to change her fate, Elizabeth moved to Los Angeles in search of opportunities in the entertainment industry. On the day of her death, Elizabeth's body was found in an empty lot, severed in two from the waist. The killer not only made precise cuts, but also removed all internal organs, leaving the body without a single drop of blood. The method used, known as the Glasgow smile, involved cutting the victim's mouth from ear to ear, creating a disturbing expression on the deceased's face. The enigma of the Black Dahlia lies in the brutality of the crime, the lack of resolution despite the efforts of the police, and the numerous suspects interviewed. The case remains unsolved to this day. Over 400 men were considered suspects, including the owner of a bar where Elizabeth used to frequent, Mark Hansen. However, no charges were successful, and Hansen was ruled out as a suspect. An intriguing theory arises from Steve Hoddle, who claimed that his father, George Hoddle, was responsible for the murder. George Hoddle, a doctor with surgical knowledge, was a suspect in his time, but was never convicted. The evidence collected by Steve Hoddle, including photographs and details of his father's life, has contributed to speculation about George Hoddle's possible connection to the crime. This is the greatest unsolved mystery in FBI history. On November 24, 1971, a man using the alias Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle, setting the stage for an audacious heist that would baffle investigators for decades. Mid-flight, Cooper summoned a stewardess, revealing a bomb in his briefcase. His demands to $100,000 and for parachutes. After landing in Seattle, he traded 36 passengers for his requests. Then the real drama unfolded. Cooper ordered the pilots to fly toward Reno, Nevada, somewhere over southwestern Washington. He did the unthinkable. With the plane flying at approximately 10,000 feet, he parachuted out and vanished into the night sky, leaving only an extended stairway and countless questions behind. For years, the FBI hunted for this daring skyjacker, but the identity of D.B. Cooper remained elusive. Was Cooper a skilled criminal mastermind or just incredibly lucky? Did he even survive the jump? What happened to Cooper and the rest of the money? In 2016, the FBI officially suspended active investigation, making it the only unsolved air piracy case in its history. This baffled scientists for decades until now. This is the wow signal. It was a powerful and shocking radio signal detected in 1977 that appeared to come from deep space, and for decades, it's been one of the most intriguing and unexplained signals ever recorded, sparking speculation that it might be the message from aliens. Scientists now believe that the wow signal might have come from a cold cloud of hydrogen in our galaxy that was suddenly brightened by an intense cosmic event, like a flare from a magnetar. Magnetars are incredibly powerful neutron stars, with magnetic fields that are 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. And when these monsters flare up, they can release massive amounts of energy. And if one of those flares hits a nearby hydrogen cloud, it could cause what's called stimulated emission. Basically, it's when radiation passing through the cloud causes the hydrogen atoms in it to emit lots of light, all at the same frequency or color, causing the cloud to suddenly glow brighter. at the exact frequency where the wow signal was detected, and this new hypothesis not only explains the wow signal's narrowband frequency and the short duration, but also why it was a one-time event. Want to know more? I'm going to be doing a deep dive into this research.